Going to say, how's the gas leak? I heard you're organising.
No, it was just a beer leak in the cellar on the gas line. So that's been resolved, mate. Don't worry about that. So
is that the most normally build up to a first round tie?
Well, we've got to dispense some beer on Sunday. That's but obviously in the clubhouse here, so it's we've got to make sure that's right as well. So that'll all be resolved by Sunday.
I suppose that's just an example of the kind of things you have to do as sort of a non-league sort of manager and a non-league sort of club. Really, that involvement. It's a lot more than just getting the team ready and making sure they're ready for that game, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, we obviously train Tuesdays and Thursdays and evenings, that is. But during the week, there's lots of stuff to be done, and this week's probably been more than any other week since I've been here full time, which is just over 2.5 years now. So, but we all do. We muck in. There's a pitch to be organised. Dean Austin's been running around like a madman this week, organising things, and just some of the little stuff that needs to be picked up of things like making sure that the beer lines are working correctly. We've got the beer lines downstairs have got to be cleaned in a bit, and that'll be my job in a bit. But we've also got to get some of the hospitality issues sorted out today as well in time for Sunday.
Yeah, but I guess you'd always want these problems when the next game's an FA Cup, so that'd be sort of special on Sunday and on the TV as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously from the club's point of view, it's fantastic, and from the town's point of view, I mean, you hear about the whole place has come to life, which is great. A lot of the pubs are already sold out in terms of the numbers that are going to be watching the game on TVs there that can't buy tickets here. So it's great from the club, from the town's point of view as well, because obviously it's brought money into the town. We've got one guy today that texted me a couple of weeks ago, has purchased his ticket. He's got hospitality and he's coming over from Holland for the game. So It just shows you, that we can bring them in from lots of areas, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you knew this game was coming for a sort of few weeks now, but you've been going so well in the league. So did you just sort of have to park this game, and then I guess you've only really been thinking about it this week?
Yeah, I think you're dead right there. I mean, the one thing we did say that, our main priority this season is first and foremost to make the playoffs, and if we can go up, whether it'll be as winning the playoffs or winning it outright is our main priority. And to get through to the first round FA Cup is a bonus, but that really had to go on the back burner for the last couple of weeks. And the way the lads have performed since beating Corinthian Casuals on penalty has been outstanding. The Bath game, the Billericay game, I just felt first half against Eastbourne we didn't get to the heights that we'd reached in the previous games, but we managed to turn around at half time and managed to come away with all 3 points.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a sort of journey getting to the first round. It probably always sort of is, really. You've had got probably classic ties, or particularly that Corinthian one.
Well, to be fair, against Corinthians, and I've said it all along, and I'll say it to you, is we should have been out of the tyre by the time the first 90 minutes was played. We didn't reach any level of performance that we've been doing all season. They were the better team. They had the better chances. Quite rightly went in front at the right time and looked like they were going to win it. We really had a free kick in the 94th minute, and their goalkeepers made a fumble, and we've had enough players on hand just to get it over the line, which was thankful from that point of view, but we probably should have been out of the tie by the 90th minute. And then we brought them back here, and though I felt we dominated the game for long periods, we didn't finish off some of our chances, and they've taken one of theirs late on, and then it goes to dreaded penalties. But I did fancy us when we went to penalties, because we've got some really good penalty takers at this club, and straight away we got the 5 on the pitch that needed to be taken them, and thankfully 4 of the 5 scored.
Yeah, and then it's to the first round draw, and what you're sort of hoping for then. Were you hoping for a home tie against the League Two leaders, or how do you sort of?
I was hoping for a home tie against one of the bottom 6 in that division. To be fair, would have been good. So I think you give yourself a bit of a chance. But if you look at Forest Green's record, it's been outstanding this year. It's going to be a tough game for us, but we're at home. We've got a good crowd behind us. We're in good form, and it's a tie that you've got to take and give yourself an opportunity to try and win the game. And only time will tell is, whether we're going to be good enough or not. They've got a good energy about them, the way they play. They score goals for fun. But again, we're in a good, rich vein of form. We're unbeaten in 14 now, which is important. The confidence is high. Had 1 or 2 little niggles over the last couple of weeks, which we've managed to clear up. Still 1 or 2 might need to have fitness test on Saturday, but we know we've got a strong squad going into the game. So we're full of confidence. We've obviously got to respect Forest Green because we know that's going to be a really tough game. But we've got to go there and try to win the game first and foremost. And where I'm sitting now is I expect us to win the game, because if I go in thinking that we're not going to be good enough, then it's going to fall through to the players, and I've got to give them that confidence that we're good enough to win this game on Sunday. Do
you, though, have to change the way you play slightly against Forest Green because of?
I'll be telling you too much there now, wouldn't I? So I think we've got to look at their strengths first and foremost. I think with us, and I've always been the same. We're at home. I feel we've got to try and play to our strengths, but we've also got to be aware of their strengths, and their strengths are very much in the forward areas. They've scored lots of goals this year. There's a reason why they've only lost a couple of games all season, because they're a good side with good players. So we've got to respect that, but we've also tried not to take away what we're good at, which is obviously winning games of football and scoring goals. So we've got to try and make sure that we keep that in terms of what we're doing, but also be aware of their strengths.
Yeah, and I mean, you've scored plenty of goals this season as well, and Sean Jeffers has obviously been a big part of that. Just tell me about sort of his season so far and his form at the moment.
I mean, he's in tremendous form. Anyone that's got 17 goals at this stage of the season, as we've just come out of October, is a fantastic return for his performances. But I also think you've got to think that, Sean is the man that finished off a lot of the opportunities that we create. And so the 4 or 5 players that we have around him in terms of Mitchell Weiss and Zane Banton, Johnny Goddard, Liam Soul and Romeo Akinola have been a big part in terms of taking up areas, getting good quality and good balls into Sean. And that's a lot of the reason why Sean scored the goals, but also Sean has been in fantastic form himself. At times he's led the forward line on his own. He's had 2 hat-tricks this year, which is great. But we try and concentrate that Sean spends a lot of his time in the 18-yard box. He's not out too wide and in areas where he's not going to be scoring goals. And I think that's benefited him a lot in terms of his performance and the number of goals that he's returned, because we are trying to keep him in that 18-yard box.
Yeah, is that the main change you've made then? Because he's sort of, I guess also there's probably an element that he's settled at the club. He's maybe a player that sort of flitted around of sort of a few clubs and has never maybe sort of settled at one place.
I think looking at his record, and funny enough, I was looking through it the other day just to check some stuff, and I think his 2 spells at Chelmsford, he was quite settled and scored goals. A lot of the other clubs he's been at, it's been, never really had a good run of games to the level of what he's getting here, and he's never really had a good goal return. So you could be quite right that he's settled, he's enjoying his football, he enjoys the atmosphere around him. And I think he enjoys the way that we've played him. As I said to you, we're not playing him into a wide area. We want him to play straight down the middle. We want him to occupy centre halves. We want him to be in and around the 18-yard box, because the one thing Sean can do, if you give him an opportunity, he'll finish it. And he's very, very quick in getting half a yard on someone and making sure that he hits the target first and foremost. But his goal return this year has been outstanding. But also last year, though it was a little bit stop and start, he had a good goal return as well last year.
Yeah, and you're going so well in the league. A few years ago, you were sort of up in around sort of the playoffs. Obviously, probably in maybe recent times, it's been a little bit tougher with the 2 sort of COVID seasons. But is that just the cycle of football and the cycle of building a squad and players moving on? And do you feel now that it's sort of you're back into that sort of, more settled squad and the players that you were able to get, etc.?
I think you're dead right. A club like ours, anytime we produce a player or we unveil a player that's good, we lose them at the end of each year. And last year we lost Solomon Wobakai and Manash Sundayo, who both went off to National League clubs and are obviously doing well in their leagues now. And every year you have to rebuild. This year, I think, because of the COVID situation, we went very early to the players. As soon as the league was locked down in March, all the players were offered new contracts and new deals in April. and most of them signed, apart from the two lads that obviously didn't sign, and a couple of players we felt we needed to move on and bring some new fresh faces in. And I think it has caused that the settled side has been a big part of where we are. In previous years, going back 5 years, when we played Carlisle 5 years ago, we knew we were losing during Emirates virtually after that game. And so little things like that, when you get to a stage where you think you've got a settled side and you lose one or two players, especially key players, it makes a massive difference to you. And you know where you are now. If you don't replace them players, then it becomes very, very difficult. But this year, with the settled side from last year, I think there's only, in the league, we've lost 3 games out of probably the last 25, which is a good return from that side of it. But that takes last year and this year into that. So, we've just got to keep believing in what we're doing, keep the players working hard, training hard, and obviously playing to the ability that they've got.
Yeah. So is a primetime televised first round clash a good or a bad thing in terms of you keeping your players? You mentioned.
I think we've got to be careful, because we had this last year when we was on BT Sport with this Bishop Stortford game, and I felt a couple of players on the night used it as a bit of a showcase game and lost their focus. So we've got to make sure on Sunday that people are focused and first and foremost on doing their job for St Albans City Football Club, and secondly from themselves, but also not use it as a showcase game, because if they do that, then some of the good things that they do on a weekly basis won't be apparent, and they'll start making mistakes. So we've got to make sure that they're focused fully on stopping Forest Green first and foremost, playing to the levels they play week in, week out. And if they do that, they'll showcase themselves anyway through being good players. And there's nothing we can do about that. We've got to say that the players have earned the right to be on TV. And if they do put themselves out that one of the other clubs or clubs up and down the country think that they're good players, then the players available. If the price is right, then we'll sit and talk about it as a club. But there's no way at this club we would stop anyone progressing. We've always been the same. And that's the one thing we've got to make sure that we do is what's right first and foremost for St Albans City Football Club, and for the player, because the one thing I've always been is the fact is that any player that signs for us and we feel that they've got an opportunity to go and play higher, we won't want to stand in their way.
Yeah, and what are your memories of the FA Cup as a player and a manager?
FA Cup, I suppose, is getting to the first round like we are now is great memories as a manager. And I managed to do that a couple of times with Boreham Wood, losing to Carlisle and Brentford, losing to Carlisle in a replay. Obviously, St Albans 5 years ago, losing to Carlisle, and obviously this weekend. As a player, I was in the semi-final squad for Luton against Wimbledon, but didn't get on the pitch. And that's when Wimbledon went on and won the FA Cup. I think it was 88. And probably the biggest one in terms of playing for me was at Colchester, I think in 79, when we got to the 5th round as a 4th division club and played Manchester United at Layer Road. And we lost 1-0 in, I think, about 15 minutes from the end. One of the Greenough brothers scored, but just a fantastic occasion. And get to the 5th round and draw Manchester United at home was what dreams were made of in them days. Football's changed a hell of a lot now, because you've seen what some clubs do. They probably don't take the FA Cup serious until it probably gets to that 5th, 6th round. But back in them days, the FA Cup was all about playing the big teams, drawing the big teams and getting big crowds in. And that's what we managed to do. But again, it's the pressure that it puts on there. There's pressure on us against Corinthian Casuals, because we knew we were going to be at home. We knew that there might be an opportunity if we was to win that game that we might get TV. And they're all the things that put pressure on you on them games.
Yeah, can you remember who else was playing in that for Man United in that contest?
I think looking at it, I think it was Gary Bailey in goal. I know the Greenough brothers played, and I think it was Buchanan or Buchan. Martin Buchan was the fullback, because I never got a kick against him. But it's one of them games where you always think to yourself. But they had a good team then. They were a good side, and as I say, going back to them sort of days, 13,000 in at Layer Road. The game was meant to be played on the Saturday, but there was a lot of snow around, so we actually sold 16,000. How the clubs in them days turned around 16,000 tickets to 13,000 tickets in 3 days was beyond me, because I know how difficult it is in terms of what we've been doing this week in trying to sell 4,000 tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. Did that game against Man United sort of give you a taste of what it was like sort of playing up against higher level players? Because obviously then you went to Arsenal after that. Did it sort of give you that?
4 years after, 4 years after that, but that did give you a taste, exactly, playing in front of big crowds and things like that. But again, it was one of them that, you know, I've always been one of them that always fancied myself against the top players, even though you see them on telly. And the only time we ever watched them on telly them days was the big match and a match of the day, because very, very rarely did they have live TV. But, you know, you always thought that, you know, if you were given an opportunity to play against them guys, that you would do well. And as I say, we lost the game 1-0, which was a shame. But, you know, the occasion itself was a fantastic occasion.
Yeah, and you don't need me to sort of remind you about the 87 League Cup final at Wembley, but you might have some difficult sort of decisions where you can probably relate to leaving players out or leaving players out of the team or the squad on Sunday.
I'd like to think I would do it a little bit better than what George Graham did it. I think I've got more of a heart in terms of the way I would deal with somebody. And it's going to be difficult decisions because, you know, I'm probably looking at the, you know, 2 or 3 are going to be difficult decisions. You know, 3 or 4 of them will be easy decisions because they've been in and around the first team, but they've not played a major part in terms of playing week in, week out. But the boys that have been in and around playing week in, week out will be some tough decisions. But I'll speak to them all personally. I feel I'll give them the reason why. And they'll have to accept that. I mean, the reason I was given was that the manager didn't have to give me a reason because he was the manager. And that stuck with me for all of my life, really, is that the one thing I wouldn't do is behave in that way. And that I'd give players a response and a reason why they've been left out. They don't have to actually accept my reason, but I think it's the right way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And 31 years as a manager now, or 30 years?
32 I'll have completed 32 on the 26th of December of this year. First game was against Bury St Edmunds for Baldock Town. Drew Toole and Alan Brazil played up front for Bury St Edmunds. There you go.
So phenomenal memory. But I guess, you know, that fire for management still burns then, and you know, you want to have more days like Sunday, I suppose. And
without a shadow of doubt, you know, this is what you're in it for. I mean, first and foremost, you know, I'm so pleased for the club. You know, it's been a tough period over the last couple of years, as you know, for everybody. And we've got 2 fantastic owners here that have put a lot of time, effort, and money into this club. So, firstly, from their point of view, you know, I'm pleased from that side of it. I'm pleased for the town. I'm pleased for the supporters because it gives them a buzz. And as I say, it does bring revenue into the town. Even if it's only for one night, it actually gives a bit of a feeling to the town and gets everybody together. And also for the players, you know, the players and the staff here have been fantastic. They deserve what they've got. They've worked extremely hard over the last 2 years, and it has been stop, start. We put ourselves in a great position last year to try and go up. Unfortunately, the COVID situation robbed us of that, which was disappointing. But the players have stayed loyal to me and the football club, and they deserve this opportunity on Sunday. But the staff all around it have worked extremely hard. The media guys have been outstanding in what they've been putting together over the last sort of 8 to 10 months. And the last couple of weeks, I know working with these guys has been non-stop, and you know, they deserve the credit for what they've put together. But they also need to enjoy the day, because you know, without what they've done, we might not be where we are now, because they've put the town and the club on the map with the additional stuff that they've added over the last few months. Yeah,
and you said you're full time at the club for the last 2 and a bit years.
2 and a bit years, yeah. So I've been doing a commercial since July 2019. And I have to say that really the first 2 years has been tough because we went into lockdowns. So both times companies were scared and probably weren't sure where they were going to be in terms of how they were going to come out of lockdown, whether the financial monies was going to be there to support your local football club. And I have to say we've probably had 15 to 20 really loyal supporters who stuck with us through the dark times in terms of COVID, supported us last year when they didn't get a full season, come back and support us again this year. So them guys deserve what's happening this weekend with the TV advertising and the millions of people it's going out to, because hopefully we'll give them some exposure, what they deserve for the amount of money they put back into the football club here. So, but I have to say the last sort of 4 weeks since it was announced that we'd got to the first round, and it's got to the fact that it's on TV live. It's been easy selling commercial this last couple of weeks. it's a lot easier than doing it when you're not in the first round of the FA Cup. So from that point of view, it's helped the club, which is good. But we've got to maintain these sponsors after, or whenever we're knocked out the FA Cup, we've got to make sure we maintain the sponsors and keep them on side for next year and the year after.
Yeah, so I guess that means you're, in a sense, full-time manager as well, which you sort of, am I right in saying you sort of haven't done that before? Because I think you moved on from Boreham Wood when they went full-time.
Yeah, when Boreham Wood went full-time, it was just at the situation there. I wasn't in the situation where I could leave the job I was in, which was working for Colesberg in the brewing industry. I needed to try and complete some time with them, which I ended up just doing short of 30 years with them. And I felt it was right for me to take up the opportunity with St Albans. They gave me a fantastic opportunity to come in here full time. And it's made the football side of it so much easier in terms that when I'm around the football club, yes, the commercial is important. Yes, the money we bring in is important, but it also gives me more time to concentrate on the football side of it. It gives us time to sit and talk about football more than for me trying to drive a car around 35,000 miles a year, trying to sell beer. So this side of it, it's been a massive important stage of my career in terms of the managing, that it has freed up a lot of time for me.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, wish you all the best on Sunday, Ian.
Thank you, David.
Thanks for your time.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much. Brilliant.
Just the one from me then, Ian. You mentioned there's a couple of niggles in the squad. Michael Clark had 55, 60 minutes on Saturday against Sandridge. Is he going to be one that's going to be touch and go?
Yeah, I mean, he's come through. I mean, Michael's done very, very well. From having a stress fracture of the pelvis back in May, which we didn't really have it diagnosed well enough at the time. People thought he had a slight tear in the lower regions of the stomach, which probably took sort of 6 weeks longer than we should have done before we actually got it. And it's come back that it was a stress fracture of the pelvis. And so now that's healed up. He's had 55 minutes, as we say. He's trained Tuesday night and feels okay. Tom Bender's worked extremely hard over the last sort of 10 days in where he was, and worked extremely hard on Tuesday night. Again, we'll have to assess him probably on Saturday, the same as Michael. So they're the ones I'm just looking at. Everybody else is fully fit. We just got to make sure now that we protect them and try and keep them away from any sort of colds or snivels or anything like that going into the weekend.
I guess I didn't realise Tom was that close to getting back.
Well, I didn't, but Tom's a strange lad. Tom has a dislocated shoulder, which should take 10 weeks and comes back after 5. So, again, listen, whether he'll be included or involved, we don't know yet. We'll have to see that on Saturday. But, he's worked extremely hard. Since he got the news that he didn't have a fracture there, the last 10 days, he's worked extremely hard on his fitness levels, the strengthening around the ankle and making sure that is strong. But again, I'm not sure where we are with contact or anything along them lines.
But I guess just having him and Michael in the training squad is a boost to everybody.
Yeah, it is, because Tom's a big leader in there. Always has been with me now for nearly 6 years, and been a big part of what we've done. Michael was a big part of us keeping clean sheets last year, and losing Devonte was a big blow at the start of the season. And David DeHaiju and Joy McKenna are fielding fantastically well in that position. And we are playing them out of position when we play them there. So they're not a Michael Clark or a Devonte Stanley playing there. So getting Michael back will be a major boost for us and help us defensively going forward over the next few weeks.